Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, number one, we actually have good lighting for this video. Would you check that out? That's a big difference. Some people ask about that, and the reason sometimes the lighting's more dim is number one, I like a nice moody 90s feel, but also we have to make sure the TV is visible, so you gotta lower the ISO on the camera. If anyone's got any camera tricks they want to teach me, by all means, comments down below. But also, more topically speaking, I've been buying a lot of Xbox games for the last few years, and I'm ramping it up in 2024. I've already been collecting for my Xbox a lot. You can actually see the shelves behind me. It's funny enough, it's my Vita collection, but there we go. There's my Xbox collection. Like, I've always been buying for it because it's one of my favorite systems to collect for, but I'm ramping it up across the whole Xbox family. So this is gonna be some of the pickups I've made in the last year or so, but also just random recommendations I wanted to make now that I have your attention. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into nostalgic and retrospective content, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing. All right, first one is a recommendation. I've had this in my collection since I was a kid, but now I can put it right there in front of you. Death Row Underground Team Combat. And yeah, you look at the back here, this is a Xbox ass Xbox game. It is such a rebellious spirit through and through. It's a sports game effectively, but it's got fighting in it. So what happens is there's two teams of four. They're running around with this little floating disc in the middle, and these two teams are going to beat the snot out of each other to grab the disc and throw it within a portal that's going to count as points. The style, the music, the career mode in this game is so much fun. So you'll pick a team, and as you go through this career mode, you're going to make signings, do sponsorship deals, you're going to make money, you can upgrade your characters with that. It's very raunchy. It's very early 2000s. I mean, they're cursing each other out. You can flip everyone off. Like, there's that early 2000s angst and edge to it. I adore it. The fact that this game isn't around anymore breaks my heart because I truly think Death Row would be a phenomenon in today's day and age. It would be such a breath of fresh air, but it's also, with modern controls, so much more fun. Now, you can play Death Row in back compat on the Xbox 360. That's the best place to play it, in my opinion. It's good on the original Xbox, but unfortunately, it is not backwards compatible on these series consoles. But I just gotta throw out there, Death Row, if you are sleeping on it, it's a really cheap pickup, and it's one of the most surprisingly incredible games that you can play on your original Xbox. Let's keep going here. Blinks 2, Masters of Time and Space. I picked this one up in Canada a while ago. It says a heroic battle for time and space. Many of you don't know this, but we have a video here on the channel. It's got about 20K views, so some of you may have seen it. It's called Blinks the Time Sweeper, Xbox's forgotten classic. And it's there that I talk about how this 4D platformer was really the heartbeat to me as a kid of Xbox's generation. While many people go on and talk about Spyro and Crash, I was the weird kid who was like, I love Blinks. And it was one of those cool discoveries when I started this channel and got more into video game collecting than ever before, was when I learned there was a sequel to this game I adored as a kid. I swear, I'm sure you all shared the same feeling. Like, as a kid, I feel like I lived in this vacuum, and all of my video game knowledge stemmed from promotional materials that were put in the mail. So what was in the Target ads? What was in the Best Buy ads? And if Blinks 2 wasn't there, I had no idea it existed. Eventually, I'd get like Xbox Magazine and whatnot, and that's where I learned about like TMNT, but so many other games, right over the head, including this brand new sequel. So I'm excited to play this one. I saw you could create your own character in it, which was kind of wild. It looks like the controls and the general feel of the game's been cleaned up a lot, as it seems like the gameplay's a lot smoother. I love Blinks, so more of that sounds fantastic. I don't care if it was critically panned. So was the first one, but look, whatever. Blinks is awesome. Please do not sleep on that. We have here a really fun one that is definitely one of the more expensive original Xbox games I own. Otogi, the Myth of Demons. Now you see Sega here, like, oh, okay, but when you see the developer, From Software, yes, From Software not only made Otogi 1 but Otogi 2 for the original Xbox as an exclusive. And you'll see here on the back, it's described as a fast-paced 3D action game with deep RPG elements. Sound familiar? Yeah, this is kind of like the heart and spirit of the Souls series in some manner. It's a lot more floaty and a lot more action-packed, I would say. But there is that same like idle animation where you stand there and the world is very still around you. Like, the silence is deafening. It's creepy. There's a pure, tangible atmosphere in this game. It's got the same sort of not guided storytelling that From Software is known for. It's got big, challenging, crazy, mythical looking creatures. I mean, it's it's a FromSoft game, and it's kind of cool as an experiment for many people who have been like me, introduced to From Software through like Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and so on, to go back and see the essence, the spirit of this company, which was Otogi. And it's just awesome to have this one in the collection. And if you're looking to do a splash in a meaningful way, Otogi is a great pickup for you. The last of our original Xbox games here, Voodoo Vince. I feel this one is just really slept on. And what's great about most of these exclusives I'm showing you, collecting for the OG Xbox, at least as far as I have seen, is pretty cheap, which I've always found surprising because their exclusives fall in that basket for me of like really weird, obscure style games that typically go for a lot of money on like eBay and Mercari because not many copies were sold. But for some reason, original Xbox games are pretty cheap. So I say get in while it's cheap, because Voodoo Vince is another one of those games that I love this game, man. I've not played much of it, but what I have adored. The soundtrack is incredible. It's like this jazzy drum and bass. I don't know. It's really cool. But also you're playing, as you'd see here, a voodoo doll. Feel his pain. And so the back describes how he gets 25 different voodoo attacks. You explore 30 twisted levels. It reminds me a lot of how I felt about Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts 2 is one of the more important games I've played in this past generation, because I remember going into Psychonauts 2 and thinking like, all right, you know, whatever. I'm not really into this weird zany stuff. And then you see the messaging behind it and how crazy and like artistically driven it is. And I adore Psychonauts 2 now. Like, it is the Pixar game to me personally. And so it really just opened the door where it's like something such as Voodoo Vince, don't profile this game. Like, check it out. These types of weird ones have so much spirit and creativity to them. So yeah, I wanted to put that one out there. Now, since Activision's kind of in the conversation, I have an Activision suggestion for all of you, one that I have made on the channel in the past when we did our golden era of Activision games video around the time Xbox acquired Activision, and that is Singularity. Singularity is a first-person shooter that reminds me so much of BioShock, from style to artistic direction, the gameplay alone, right? The gun and the superpowers you get. The story has choice and consequence. This comes from Raven Software, who I think is one of the most underrated developers in the industry. They're responsible for games like X-Men Legends. They're responsible for games like Marvel Ultimate Alliance. I just mentioned Singularity. They're responsible for some of my favorite Call of Duty campaigns, even like Black Ops Cold War. Like, they just don't miss in my eyes, and Singularity is a perfect slept-on example of that you definitely want to throw in your collection. Singularity is replayable, it's fun, and if you love BioShock and you're looking for something new in the world kind of BioShock, like I feel, you're gonna want to check out Singularity for sure. I also got a weird one here. I love the JRPG Xbox 360 exclusives. They kind of fall in that same basket for me of weird Xbox original exclusives. We have 99 Nights here, N3 99 Nights here. Got it for 10 bucks, as you can see, at a local shop. And this one is really interesting because it's kind of like a Warriors clone game. Like, it's got that Muso style gameplay, but it's also a JRPG. You can replay these missions and get like new loot and new upgrades for your characters. But I just miss the days where Xbox had really meaningful, cool, and surprisingly great JRPG exclusives. You'd see that nowadays and fall out of your chair. It's practically outside of Hi-Fi Rush, I think non-existent. You'll see day one Game Pass games, but exclusives, not at all. So these 360 games, from like Infinite Undiscovery to Operation Darkness to 99 Nights, just mean a lot to me as a big JRPG fan, and this one's awesome. I mean, it's a Muso game, and when you look at the time period it came out in, the amount of characters that are on screen and how chaotic these battles get is really awesome. So I'd recommend that one. This one was a suggestion from my good friends that you may have actually heard of and watched this content of, ACG. We used to run a podcast together called the Ham Radio Podcast, and one game he recommended a lot that when I saw it for, as you see here, $6, I had to pick up, and that was Rise of the Argonauts. A score by the dude who did the same score for 300. It actually mentions that here on the back of the box. And an action RPG. Not just like loot-based. There's tons of dismemberment, might I add here, but the real catch here is like dialogue and choice and consequence. Like, this is a surprisingly deep video game, and it's not back compat, unfortunately, but it really is another one that I think is highly slept on. And again, shout out to Carrick. He put me onto this, and I really dug what I've played of this game thus far, especially with the combat feeling really visceral. It reminded me of the 300 video game on PSP. I played that game an absurd amount. I love that game, and I love the movie 300, so makes sense, right? But Rise of the Argonauts is like this next-gen version of that. It's kind of got some God of War spirit to it. It's great. Like, it's surprisingly fantastic, so don't sleep on that. Now, kind of in the spirit of Death Row, I got another one I got to shove in your face, even though we made a dedicated video about this one already. Lost Odyssey. This is the Final Fantasy 13 that you were looking for. Now, I say this as someone who defends the entirety of the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy. Shut your mouth, all right? Don't say anything bad about Lightning. I will not tolerate it here. But there's a lot of people who can't stand 13, and I understand. I'm just saying, just try out 13 too, and all of your concerns will go away. But I get it. If you were looking for, like, what's the next mainline 13 game, and then we go into 14, 15, you had the creators of Final Fantasy leave. They start up this new company called Mistwalker, and that gave birth to one of my favorite JRPGs ever, probably top 5 in Lost Odyssey. Lost Odyssey's narrative is extremely captivating to me. It plays with the idea of immortality in a unique way. So you play as Kaim, who has wandered this world for hundreds of years. He's seen wars, plagues, humanity wiped out and reborn again. So he's relatively detached. However, as the story goes on, he meets people he loves and kids he adores, and he has his own family eventually. And there is that sad reality that he is going to outlive pretty much everyone in this game, and that this is just another chapter in his life. And that is both equal parts heartbreaking, but also like uplifting, and this kind of message of spending meaningful time with people no matter how much time is left, because it's still worth it. And so it just really resonated with me on that end. But it's also just a fantastic JRPG. Like, the skill system is great, where you'll link with characters and learn their abilities, and then you'll make these crazy builds with that. It's got the spirit of Final Fantasy, where there's secret boss fights and secret loot to find and dungeons to run through. It's so epic in the scale and scope of the game, where you'll just get on a boat and ride it around and find all sorts of hidden locations. Like, this game just feels boundless. For a 2008 game, you can play it on your series consoles. It looks beautiful. It is phenomenal. Another 360 suggestion for you here is Time Shift. This is one I missed out on. It's not a 360 exclusive, but I like 360 for first-person shooters. This one has time controlling abilities alongside great first-person shooting combat, and another slept-on one. I got that one for $5, by the way. So these are, I'm trying to really, for the most part for y'all, focus on cheaper games. And the way the economy is right now, like, I don't think I need to sit here and be like, here's another $200 PS1 classic. Go pick it up. This game's sick for the collectors. Like, I'm trying to give you all games that are not going to run you more than $20, so you can maybe do multiple pickups instead of like one big $70 game. But Time Shift is a game. I mean, look at this box art, right? Like, check this box art out. It just goes hard on its own. And I'm sad I slept on this game, but a buddy of mine put me onto it. It's a ton of fun. I love the time mechanic of it. Reminds me a lot of Time Splitters. So yeah, definitely check out Time Shift. And so now we get into the Xbox One series console. They kind of like blend here. I do have more exclusives for the Xbox One era, because I think a lot of those were slept on. And I wanted to make sure those were in my physical collection. So we have here Rise, Son of Rome. Yes, the QTE action game, many call it. I do not care. This game is sick. I might have a thing for these sort of like epic Roman fights. Like, you know, you have Rise, Son of Rome. I know Rise of the Argonauts kind of isn't that, but it's this like similar spirit, right? There might be a thing I enjoy with these games, but Rise, Son of Rome, I think, is not only really fun, but I do find by the end of the game, the story is extremely entertaining and intense, and the way it ends is pretty shocking, I would say. I did not see it coming, and I played and beat this game twice when I first bought my Xbox One at launch. Like, I don't think Rise, Son of Rome should be sold to you as this game that's gonna really knock your socks off. It's the best game ever, but to just say it's not a good game at all, I think is disingenuous. I think Rise, Son of Rome is fantastic. I love it. One other game I really love that there's been rumors so many times that it's gonna come to PlayStation. Maybe one day it will, but there's been rumors for years and it's never happened. I say pick up Sunset Overdrive. All of these Xbox One exclusives are really cheap anyway, but Sunset Overdrive is, if you like Spider-Man, right? Like Spider-Man PS4 and Spider-Man 2 and the movement systems there, this game here gave birth to all of that. And it's also post-apocalyptic. It is a hybrid between the Spider-Man movement systems and Ratchet and Clank weaponry. I guess if you would say, unfortunately, it came out on the Xbox One, where we didn't really get to see more people enjoy it. I think this game would have been a smash hit if it were multi-platform. And I understand like Xbox doing this as an exclusive, like they need to make their platform more attractive, especially during that point in time where PlayStation was really ramping up the exclusives. But this is one that, oh my God, I feel more people would have adored this if they actually gave it a shot and played it. It's phenomenal. Now for more newer games. These are more recommendations, but also recent pickups. I played this game for the first time in July of last year, Marvel Midnight Suns. I finished it by August. It was about a 50, 60-hour game from Firaxis, the developers of the XCOM series. My co-host on Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, Lord Cognito, put me onto this one, and I really enjoyed it. While it's not perfect, it definitely reactivated a lot of my love for particular characters in the Marvel series. Like, I love Wolverine, and this was a good reminder of why I love Wolverine. Blade is sick in this game. The DLC characters, as you'll see, I have like the Enhanced Edition, and the DLC I bought with it. So yeah, you get characters like Storm, Venom. You get really cool additions to the roster that I adore. They add more missions to the game. For those who don't know, don't let the card system dissuade you. I feel like this game definitely got slandered out the gate when it wasn't going to be this microtransaction style game. It is just a point system to determine how many moves you can make in a turn. It's a complex strategy game where there are a lot of like little skirmishes you'll go and do. A little bit sometimes too many. I think this game could have been paced out a little better. But what the cool DNA of this game is you have the combat I'm talking about, where there's a lot of environmental interactivity. Every character has their own deck build, and so you can customize the abilities and make your own cards and have your own abilities. So you can really deck out what these characters are going to do and what their purpose is in the battlefield. And then there's the whole Abby system, where you'll spend time with them and you'll get to learn about their personal problems. Like Peter Parker, well, man, I don't know why. I feel like Blade doesn't like me. And it's hilarious, right? Like, it's a little bit, I wish there was more focus on like continuous storylines with these characters. It feels like a sequence of random events, but I do like just seeing these otherwise larger than life characters have these personal issues, and you'll invite them to go hang out by the pool and whatnot. It's kind of fun. I don't know, but I dig it. And I feel like, given that we learned the sales weren't great for it, I put it back on your radar. And with all the love of Baldur's Gate 3, our final recommendation here is another CRPG style game that I know if you're a Fallout fan, you'll love, and that is Wasteland 3. This one's also been in my collection for a while, but look, if you are seeking out a co-op RPG with some of the craziest spider-webbing choice and consequence you have seen in a video game, In Exile is your team, and this is your game. It is absolutely incredible. I love the way they handle turn-based combat. Like, if you're not crazy about turn-based, what they do here is they let the enemies go all at once. So really, you get control instantly. Like, you're not waiting and seeing what's the enemy going to do here, what's the enemy going to do there, and watching turn after turn pass by as it takes control away from you. This game lets you keep the momentum. So you see them all go at once, bing, bang, boom. They then pass the turn back to you, and now you're immediately playing and strategizing. The character creator here is hilarious. The role-playing options are dense as hell. I mean, it's just, as a Fallout fan, I love Wasteland 3, but even like if you're a Baldur's Gate 3 fan, like you want more of that style game, this is not only a great option in filling that void, but it's also more palatable, I think. Not a massive commitment. Like, you can beat this game in like 20 to 30 hours. I mean, there's a ton of side content and a ton of replayability, but that's the strength of the game, is like you can beat it, and then if you want to go for like 80 hours, 100 hours, like you can throw another playthrough or two at it. Like, that's what's special about Wasteland 3. It's a phenomenal video game. Love, 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 love this one. And so yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you want a little refresh here, we're gonna put it in front of the camera. These are all of the games that I've been picking up here on Xbox, from top to bottom. Nonetheless, I thought I'd make some purchasing recommendations for all of you that were within a reasonable range of like not being too pricey, but fun, and maybe some slept on ones that I think play best on Xbox if they are third party. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, what are your recommendations? I'm shopping, so let me know, let the audience know down below. I'm keen to see what you're picking up. And with that, I'll catch all of you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.